好，翻嚟韓國男茶即句子茶特約共聚會，咁咧係有網友真係睇緊，
有人真係睇緊，
咁犀利，阿亨啊，
點樣揾到㗎？
係啦，即係
我哋冇 release 個 link 出嚟㗎。
係啦，即係淨好嘢都總有人發掘啊！我哋已經呢啲酒已經我哋啲牛油紙包住晒啦，都俾人掹咗出嚟，係啊。好，下第節，係
今集又有呢個重量級嘉賓啦，咁啊有我前主持 Anty Fung，咁同埋。
很強調，
更加係咪更加明顯？同樣
佢即係一個人去，跟住帶多個人翻，
咁啊有個帶多個重量級嘅嘉賓翻嚟，
係啦。
咁啊呢個重量級嘅嘉賓咧就呢個Master Sommelier MS Darius
一個侍酒大師啊，
係啦，
係。
咁啊，我哋今集啊繼續講下我哋呢個同 MS 傾偈，同埋同我前主持傾偈嘅系列啦，好嘛？
係咪都係全球咪都得個200幾個咁樣嘅
？300幾
係咪？
係啦。
It's still under 400, right? The total number of MS, just about 300 something.
Last week we had 7 more pass, so the total still like 250.
Wow.
Just 250.
Yeah, because Master Wine's the one that's...
MW have already over 400.
Yeah.
Master Wine 300 something, I think.
Yeah.
300
something.
Yeah. But so, can you tell us a little bit about your journey while doing the MS, the Master Sommelier? How was your journey? How was it? I mean, your path. How long did it take for you? How many years in total?
Oh, okay.
Or how many months? I don't know.
Months. It could be days.
I haven't converted months yet. Well, I took the first level examination in 2000.
Okay.
And I passed it in February 2005.
Right. So 5 years. Around.
So yeah, it's like a little over 4.5. But the thing was, at that time there was no. Today there's a certified level, which is level 2. Right. When I was starting out, the certified level didn't exist until, ironically, after I passed the masters, officially 2006. Right. So there was the introductory level, was the level 1. Level 2 was the advanced, and level 3 was the masters at that time. So now, at that time, similarly, you had to wait to be invited, so you had to have a certain amount of prerequisite criteria. You needed to be, a certain amount of sommelier experience, and you needed to be, et cetera, et cetera. And if you passed one level, you would have to wait a calendar year before you could actually attempt to apply for the next level. It's since changed a little bit because demand has far outseated our ability to put on, to meet that demand for exams. So, but yeah, and I was in Las Vegas at the time, and I was at Oriel as the head sommelier, and I, I just basically had just developed a set schedule and a routine, and so basically I would get up at 8 a.m. and basically if it was my work day, which was pretty much 5-6 days a week, I would study. I would actually get out of the house, and I lived in an area of Las Vegas, kind of in the southeast side, of Vegas, and there was a little hill behind my house and a cul-de-sac, so I'd kind of hike up the hill and have my books in my backpack, and I would just sit there and study.
That's very romantic.
Yeah, it was nice because I just didn't want to be distracted. And so that was kind of my normal study habit, and I would go to work, get to work by probably 1 o'clock usually, and then do a bunch of work on the back end, receiving wines, checking the orders, checking the stock, getting a lot of the data, because we were the first restaurant in the world to have the electronic wine pads at the time. So back in the time we had a stylus and everything as well. So you'd have to update the data not only on the printed wine list, but on our inventory systems, and then also update it on the electronic version of data as well. So it was basically 3 platforms, nothing links at the time.
Integrated.
Nothing integrated. So it was a lot of data and a lot of processing. So I do a lot of that and training, and then I go on the floor and work the floor, and that was pretty much my life for a couple of years. So I had a great wine program, I had a great sommelier position, and I had the ability to taste everything.
But which part of the exam do you find most challenging?
Most challenging for everybody to pass is definitely the tasting.
Right.
That's where people struggle the most. But everyone's different. So, but when you get up to the master level, the tasting is the hardest, because the way that you have to taste and the way that you need to rationally deduce down through using what we call the grid, our kind of essentially kind of our template of things, but the way that you describe and bring your case down and filter it down, deduce it down to what it could be, and then draw a really good final conclusion from that. So that's the hardest for most people. Some people, the theory is quite challenging. Theory is always challenging. I started the MDub program before I started the MS program in the Seattle area, but moving to Vegas, there was only MSs, so it was really easy for me to transition to MS. But
so they allow you to do that, actually.
Oh yeah, there's no rivalry whatsoever. The MW actually initiated 2 years before. The MWs are the ones 2 years before the MS was created, essentially by MWs and other industry professionals in Great Britain, because they realized there was a need for expertise in the hospitality realm.
Right.
So, some of my great friends are MWs, and some of my original mentors are MWs.
Right.
So.
But the Court of Master Sommelier in the States and the Court of Master Sommelier in the UK, they're a little bit different, right? There's
different chapters, essentially.
Right.
But we do the same programs, the same certifications, and so on. So there's probably a little variation just based upon the mentorships and the support systems and so on. But when it comes to the examinations, it's one kind of unified body, two different chapters, if you will.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. But because I've been studying some, I've heard of some stories about the difference between the UK and the US, and if you hold a certificate from the US chapter, if you come back to Hong Kong, you got to do something. Well, get a letter or whatever.
Whatever chapter you start with, in terms of the Court of Master Sommeliers,
you should continue.
You continue with that chapter.
Yeah. You cannot switch. Right.
Yeah.
I see.
So it's just like Maison, Opus Dei, or any organization.
No idea.
Just stick with certain chapters. Stick with it. Okay, you mentioned about some mentoring program, right?
Yeah.
Are you doing any mentoring in Hong Kong now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Time permitting, but that's one of the things that I'm working more towards in the future is mentoring more. So some of the from this past year and this calendar year as well, I've mentored a few of those students that got through the advanced level and so on. Trying to focus what time I can and trying to create the groups. That's one thing about the Hong Kong sommelier kind of culture, I feel, is that could be improved upon. I feel that it's complicated because most sommeliers work long hours.
Right.
And it's trying to coordinate them in one central place, consistently creating a group that is dedicated and focused and able to do there and really apply themselves the right way. It's kind of something that need to be...
That's what I heard. Your mentoring session is something like in the midnight, right?
You can, but I don't prefer that. I don't recommend it. My personal ones I don't usually do late. Because what happens is if you do late night, it inevitably turns into a social gathering.
Oh,
people will consume too much
drinking,
wine. And, I believe that there's a time for study sessions, and that's completely one side of the spectrum, and then the other side of the spectrum is the socializing and enjoyment and so on.
I went to once this kind of session in Washington, D.C. Last year when I went with Tommy Lam to the SWE conference where you have one session on Ningxia wine with a lot of leftover. And then Keith Jackson said, okay, why not we let the local, the capital's sommelier come over.
Yeah.
He just make a few calls, and then over 10 of them come, but they all come after, 11 o'clock at a certain restaurant.
Yeah.
I forgot the name. It's a Capital Room, something like that.
Yeah,
and then we gather. They have a magazine and some loft up not in the restaurant.
I know what you're talking about.
That was great night, Yeah,
it's
really late.
Well, that's the thing in the States. We've seen, with the Court of Master Sommeliers in particular, which there's definitely a greater presence in the States to the Court of Master Sommeliers than the Master of Wine program. Frankly. And then most everywhere else, there's more Master of Wine programs, or especially WSET-based programs, than Court of Master Sommeliers. Like over here, the Court of Master Sommeliers programs have been kind of, we're much lesser known, and it's because of our exposure, and we're a bit smaller. So just to get
hit
people
on
over
some
here
interesting question. We can come to the MW later when we go back to Anty. But let's go on with your master. I mean, say you're now mentoring a number of sommelier.
Yeah.
You'll be here. You already know. How do you compare the local sommelier here?
How do I compare them?
And the sommelier in Las Vegas.
International or
Vegas? International or the Vegas.
In general.
Well, it's a bit different. I think that in Hong Kong, the culture in Hong Kong, from what I see, is distinct. And to say, let me just compare it to Vegas. Vegas is very much like, you're there to provide a service, and you're there so the entertainment value, the table side service that you provide is very engaging.
It's a show.
And it's a show, but it's very engaging. And I mean, it doesn't mean to say that you're not a professional. You always need to recommend the right wine for the right occasion and situation. But it's a different mindset. You really have to engage. You have to go out and essentially try to sell wine tableside in a manner that is engaging and fun and fairly straightforward, talking about it and to not be an encyclopedia. And so
you got to be a comedian at the same time.
Well, you got to be knowledgeable about all the wines. So I don't think comedian, but you need to be engaging. Right. And I don't see that in Hong Kong as much from the locals. I think the locals are a bit shy. And they don't engage. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. The culture is very different. So therefore, sommelier is a reflection of that culture. The locals. It's rare to find a local Hong Kong sommelier that I see that goes out and can really direct a table. We talk a little bit about kind of taking command of the table. Doesn't mean like you're there to be the boss but it means that you're there to work with them and enthusiastically sell the right wine for them and to read them. So a lot of this is talking about how to read a table, read their energy, who's the host, who's the hostess, how to present yourself, how to play the part to get a quick dialogue that's going to be effective for you to sell them the right wine. And there's a number of different ways to do that, but I think that sales techniques and so on, in the States you had to be pretty much a server, a waiter, waitress for some time before you'd even be considered as a sommelier. When I was in the business in the 80s and early 90s and so on, there was only a couple sommeliers in the market where I even grew up. So it was pretty much an unheard of thing, and it's got obviously grown and changed. But here it's a similar thing where I think there's a movement getting better, but I think that engagement and that establishing that trust with the buyer is really, really critical. And it's more or less kind of having experience and knowledge. So I think having service background first is really important, and that's not necessarily always
do they serve as well in Hong Kong? I thought the sommeliers in Hong Kong also serve food.
Of course. But what I mean is you before you get the sommelier or assistant sommelier role, I strongly recommend, and this is internationally everywhere, this goes back to Europe and so on, you have a couple years of service background. Okay. The criteria and the prerequisite for the quartermaster sommeliers was before you're really a sommelier, you have 5 years of service experience as a waiter, waitress. 5 years. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a basic fundamental understanding of how to be successful as a salesperson within that particular business model. So I think that's really something that I see as a little different here.
But do you think it's because the clientele, the customers here in Hong Kong are quite different?
To be fair, that's part of it too, because I've only, since I've been in Hong Kong, I've only worked in establishments that are higher end clientele. Yeah. And a lot of times that clientele is bringing in their own wine. So how are you going to sell something when they're bringing in their own wine? Right?
And there are problems that they
tell them the wines are cold.
I still would. I still sell them a glass. I still like something I haven't tasted. I just sit there and pour a little taste of something without their knowledge and drop it off at the table and say, just give that a taste with your, amuse-bouche.
But sometimes with those rich guys, is that they don't want you to tell them that they're inferior. They just want to pretend they know everything, and they don't want your recommendation. They're not interested in what would go with the food. Yeah. They want the most expensive bottle. Yeah. That's the problem in Hong Kong, I think.
Yeah. Is it common in Hong Kong?
A lot of
very
places.
common. Come on. Yeah. Especially a certain establishment that I know very well.
Sure. Yeah. There's definitely that for sure. So it's a lot of it too, because on the high end wine consumers here in Hong Kong, they, to your point, it's more of a status for their lifestyle and so on more than about the wine. And then there's the other side where there's the, a little bit younger generations up and coming that's maybe a little bit more interested in just wine and at a reasonable price and enjoyment of it.
Do you think the culture of sommelier, the way sommelier do the job in Hong Kong, should they change? Or you think you can help make that change?
Well, I don't, first of all, I'm not the one to make that decision, but my opinion would be that it will have to evolve. And I think that the way that it can evolve and allow sommeliers to be more successful, to run better, more successful programs, which will make their bosses, their owners of those dining establishments more happy, and therefore justify the sommelier position, is to be more effective. You have to take sometimes a step back and have a different approach that's going to give you better opportunity to sell wine. And so rather than, if you've got a certain clientele that just brings in their own wine, you're not going to sell much, right? So then you have to think outside that box. What else could I do for them? What other kind of service could I provide for them in order to kind of establish some kind of rapport or some kind of trust with them? And so there are ways. And I think on the other side, for just people that are enjoying, wines to dine and enjoy there and buying from the list, then, I think that the sommeliers will just need to engage a little bit more.
So can you...
In general. There are some that are great, but that's the exception rather than the rule.
Okay, do you mind you share some interesting story of some very difficult customer you met, either in Las Vegas or Hong Kong, in a situation that you wish you had gone?
That I wish I had done? Yeah. Over the years, there's all sorts of different... I mean, in Las Vegas is crazy, and I was there at a time where it was you would see all sorts of, funny people and behavior. I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think of one that really stands out. I haven't had the types of complications that some of my associates have had, fortunately. But, there's been some times where I sold a nice bottle of wine rather than taking an order for a bottle of wine. I think that's a big thing. A lot of times sommeliers will try to take credit when you got a guy that wants a nice bottle of wine, he just orders it. You're not providing a service, you're not selling it, unless you're having a dialogue, you're not selling. Or a waiter or somebody like that says, "Oh, I sold this bottle of wine." "Oh, okay, great. How did you sell it?"
So you ordered himself.
You took an order. That's a big difference. So, I mean, but I've had some crazy situations. I remember one time, just randomly on top of my head at Oriel, I had a gentleman, he's probably a mid-aged man and his wife, and they were sitting on a table enjoying, I think, an anniversary coming up, and they wanted a bottle of wine to go with it, and a bottle of white wine. So I ended up selling them a bottle of a Louis Michel Chablis, and it was one of the Premier Cru wines that we had on the list. We had the Grand Crus, and we had the Premiers, and we had even Village of not only Michel but other producers too. And so, but every time that I do a sell, on a printed list, I always draw my finger, and I always teach this, to draw a line across and then to hold your finger just below the price of the wine so that they see that, so that their eyes follow the wine across and see the vintage and the price and while you're describing it. Anyway, I love the wine. Got to the end, and he waves me over because he wants to pay, and he's upset. And they were very happy before this. They loved the wine and very, very much enjoying the experience. And he said, "No, you charged me for the wrong wine." I said, "Oh, I'm very sorry." And so I look at it, and it's like, "It's the right wine." I'm like, "No, it's the right wine." So I said, "I'm sorry, I apologize. I said, this is the wine you enjoyed. Did you think it was a different wine, or trying to understand?" And he got very upset and very animated, and got to the point where he threatened me, like he threatened my life, like that. "I'll kill you." I'm like, "Wow, okay." So I had to call the security, and the security had to bring them out, and it was crazy. But what happened was, he was under the impression it was one of the other Louis Michel wines, I think, but I don't know.
How much was the price difference?
Oh, a difference of $6, $7. Yeah. So I mean, it's
huge. It's huge.
You get in Hong Kong. I haven't had much aside from what I call wannabe experts that
I don't know, but back in the 90s, $6 to $7 could be a lot. Nowadays, nothing.
It's like 2001 or something, but still, but you just never know. Some people will just react for whatever reason, but it's all about how you handle the situation.
How about
trying to provide a service.
Sorry. Any stories you remember? Because back to the first topic when you talk about in the train, in the TC.
Yeah,
is
TCS,
it big difference between the customer or the train or in the car?
Oh, it was so different. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy because you have to imagine this train. It was called the Red Prussian. It had been sitting in this train station forever.
Yeah.
It was actually from the 1940s. I guess there was a German ambassador in politics that was afraid to fly. So he took this particular train, and then when he was out of politics, the train just got parked and sat there in the train station for decades. So anyway, you have a German team that's obviously operating the train and doing the housekeeping and so on and the other cars, and they're getting used to this train because they haven't run it for so long.
Yeah.
So literally at one of the very first stops, we're in the dining car, there's food on the tables and so on. And the brakes just go, and just come to a quick stop, and everything slides off. And the thing is, you have to imagine that particular clientele was Stanford alumni group, and it was like older clientele, and quite wealthy, and so they were just kind of laughing it off. They were just like, okay, because this is an exploration. This is like an adventure, an expedition for them that they've never been to, that they want to enjoy. And they're reminiscing. Some of their colleagues are there, of course, they remember from Stanford alumni. And so it was very different. It's like when you're in those situations, it's almost like if you go to a destination resort, you're there for relaxation or pleasure, rather than anywhere in a city. You go to the nice restaurants. It's just not the same.
So do you need extra skill while pouring wine on the train?
I had, because it was young Americans. Some of them were actually just turned out to be friends of friends, and they had never carried a service tray. They never served before, so I had to actually teach them how to carry a tray on a moving train. I was getting used to it myself. It's a little weird.
Why did you get used to it? You never worked at the train.
Not before that. I've never worked on a train. No, before those expeditions, I've never worked serving people. Carrying around a service tray or carrying food on a train.
Suggesting Brian Julian, that maybe the next AS exam should be conducted on the train.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Or on a cruise.
That's one thing. You go to a cruise or a train. So I've worked on some of the cruises as well. And when you get European service people on those in those environments, they are so technically skilled with tray service and so on. They're excellent. So Hong Kong, when it comes to technical skill and ability to serve, technically correct, they're pretty good on that. And I think a lot of it, again, is the culture. It's like if you teach someone here technically how to do something, they'll practice the technique of it, but they won't interact. It's kind of what I would call, it's not the right word, but it's kind of robotic.
Yeah.
It's technically very sound,
Right.
for the most part,
Right.
in nicer establishments anyway. And but there's not a lot of interaction.
It's the same problem all across Asia.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed
Japan
that.
is the same thing.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I've been visiting Asian markets for some time now, last decade roughly, and so doing exams and getting a feel for different places. And you're right, it's pretty much the same in Asia. So.
Yeah, because it's the same at school, right? You go to an Asian university, nobody asks any question. And instead, anybody has any question, everyone will raise their hand. Yeah.
Kevin, when I studied wine MBA in the class, the most common question is, can I have a break?
You didn't realize how expensive that brick is? They're paying for it.
You're right.
Okay, let's talk about our second wine, okay?
Right. Yes.
Because we have an Italian wine from Sicilia, from Sicily. It's an Etna Rosso. Etna is the mountain. It's the volcano.
I think the biggest volcano in Europe.
Yeah, it's a volcano. And then the name of this wine, I think it's a winemaker, I think.
That's the winemaker.
Girolamo Russo. Girolamo Russo, right? It's a very strange first
Why
name.
made you speak Italian that well?
Yeah, but there's a very
I
strange
hope that's not the
crazy.
same for me as well.
He's crazy.
Yeah, but it's a very
Girolamo,
strange first name because his first name is very rare in Italian. But the name
he's
of the
coming
wine-
end of November. You can perhaps
really?
go ask him.
All right. Okay. The name of the wine is it's very strange. Arena, but there's a apostrophe to it, which is very strange. So it is not an article. I have no idea why there's this.
Maybe it means at something or on something.
It's not the
sometimes
it's not the
preposition.
It's
okay.
It's not the accent. It is an apostrophe. No, I have no
Okay.
idea. Rina, okay, but it's from 2014. So it's who chose this one?
It's actually me.
Oh, so it's a wine that you like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I fell in love with Mount Aitner's offerings. I'm trying to figure out when. My very first wine would probably be in Hong Kong for sure, and it was just probably like visiting a wine bar, and I was like coming across like a Mount Aitner wine, and okay, that's the funny thing. So people were telling me, oh, the grape variety is Nerello Muscatese, Nerello Cappuccino. And by then I was like, what cappuccino? Okay. And I was like, no.
Cappuccino,
Nerello
not
Cappuccino.
cappuccino.
And I was like, oh, something cappuccino. I was like, okay, fine, let me just it anyway. It was when I first noticed it. And I had it. I was like, oh, wow. And now I actually remember. And that was one of the bottle of wine that I really like selling when I was in Mandarin Oriental. Honestly, there was just one Aitner Rosso, and when I tasted, and after tasting, it was like, this is basically the best value bottle that you can actually buy and enjoy, and it's the one bottle that can actually show that, yes, in wine you can taste the soil without paying a hefty premium to get that impression.
Right.
And anyway, so fast forward to now, Girolamo Russo, lovely producer. There's not many Aitner Rosso that you can actually find in Hong Kong.
Well,
there's
depends on
established
where you
ones,
go, but
Taranere.
But this one, I think it's a natural wine. It's a natural winemaking, right? It's organic, natural wine.
It's organic.
Right.
There is actually a natural version, Frank Cognessen.
Okay.
Crazy Belgian gentleman. So natural that his basic contadino basically have some remnant of yeast. I believe it's a remnant of yeast anyway. It's like it's literally in your wine.
It's just
First of all, it
filtered,
is rather cloudy, and you had it kind of like a bottle drink from a tank that's where the wine is still half fermenting of some sort. It's a little bit of fissiness.
That's normal.
Well, then again, the top wine is very nicely made. But so you have that, which is more like a Willy Wonka kind of winemaker from Mount Aitner, and then you have Girolamo Russo, who just started his winery like in 2005.
Oh right,
It's actually very new. He started it as to pay a homage to his father, actually. So he's like, okay, I'm going to start that. It's really small. This is the entry-level wine, and there's only 30,000 bottles.
All right. And where can we find this wine in Hong Kong?
In my private lager as well. But
Your private.
two very lovely Italian gentlemen brought this in. Again, father and son duo, Michele and Marco. And they're going to be bringing Girolamo Russo to Cellar end of November.
Oh, great.
I was asking them for 1 kilogram of volcanic dirt, just so that everybody can kind of like really
touch and
smell the dirt itself. And
it's black. I can tell you. Yeah.
Yes. And if you have enough, you can actually do like a Japanese spa, where you kind of like sit in it.
I've seen plenty of that in Campania. Similar
I really
stuff.
like this wine. I like the fact that the label kind of reflects on how it looks like when you would be, visiting that property. It's just so amazing. I mean, it literally, those wine growers would be managing the vineyards when there are steam coming off, Mount Aitner, right?
Oh, yes.
Right on the background.
It is a very
it's quite a dramatic scene.
Vivant in French. What is it in English? Alive. It's a volcano
really
that's very
quite
alive.
amazing, yeah.
Yes.
So what do you think of the wine?
I love it. First of all, I love the nose to it has I think it reflects the soil very well, and then it's got that very interesting earthiness to it.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
And, it's like, on the palate you have that very good core of red fruit. You have good weight there. It's fairly supple, but on the finish you do get that kind of tea-like, tea-ish.
It's a bit tea-ish. It's got the tannins are actually pretty soft already. It's not very especially tannic. It's soft, I think. Acidity, good acidity. But it doesn't feel it's that hot, but actually it is very.
It is. It's actually 14.5.
But you don't feel it.
And they have a good concentration of fruit, and
Concentration is good, yeah.
and that really downplays, the impact of that morning alcohol. You do get it, but
it's got good elegance.
Yeah.
Even though it's it's very hot.
Usually, any common characteristic for wine that come from volcanic soil?
Oh, it depends on the grape, right?
Like this one, you say you felt the impact of it. That reflect the.
Yeah, but I think it depends on the grape variety. It depends on the wine making. A lot of different factors. For example, if you grow in Japan, it's volcanic. Also, they grow koshu, but it's going to be very different from the white and the Grillo from.
Okay, doesn't mean that because
Sicilia.
it's volcanic soil, so it may be
could be
more pronounced in certain characteristic not necessarily.
Well, this particular volcanic soil in Etna is a little bit more volcanic potash based topsoils and midsoils, and it's not as much. And there's amorphic rock below that in the substrata, but there's different types of volcanic. I mean, tufa in the Loire is different than volcanic ash in Washington State, where I come from, which is a lot more basalt. And so, to me, this black kind of potashy soil and the black stone kind of flavors really come out. A lot of people think it's the tannin, but it's extreme minerality. It's almost like in Santorini with Assyrtiko. This is very much. It's more of a stony kind of volcanic base rather than the potash kind of flavor. But it's a different pH altogether, I think. This just the acidity and the mineral qualities kind of can fool some people into thinking the tannins are higher than they are, because that's the mineral. And once you learn where it hits on your palate, then you start to get a sense from what.
It's like this wine, right? Actually, it's not tannin.
It's the minerality.
Yeah, it's the minerality.
Yeah.
But some people would think it's tannin. I agree.
Well, usually, how do you tell? How do you know the difference? It is actually the minerality and not the tannin. Because I still feel pretty dry afterwards.
Yeah, well, that's the minerality, and it's usually the minerality is hitting in the center of the palate. So it's placement of the palate more than anything, and then tannin, depending on where the tannin's coming from, whether it's skin-related, more up front on the palate and your gums, or if it's more oak-driven and more leaning from wood. And so on in the back of your palate, stems as well. So it lingers a little bit longer, and it's a little bit harsher and more bitter rather than astringent. This is more stringent.
Is this you suggest may need a decant for this wine or no need?
What's that, the tannin?
Do you think this wine needs more decanting or not?
It's just young right now, too. I mean, but this is where, again, bridging the gap with food. So down there with just some simple cold cuts and cheeses is a perfect way to go with this, because it'll absorb into the proteins and fat. And you don't, you'll still taste the earthiness and the mineral flavor, but it won't be as strong. The impression on the tongue won't cling to your palate. It gets absorbed by the food.
And I got a feeling that this is not a wine for fine dining restaurant. No, it's a wine for places where you eat cold cuts, simple food, something like the cabane, some bistro, whatever.
It's quite easily to enjoy wine. It's actually a great pairing wine. I like that core of fruit. It will make it so ready and so easy to kind of work with savory tones.
The pH is great, so both these wines make you salivate a lot because of the pH on them. But this one in particular just makes you salivate a lot on the finish. So you really, that's just kind of lifting flavor on the palate, and also easier to work with a broader array of food.
Wow.
So, Anty, you say you want to talk something about the education, the wine education scene in Hong Kong?
Yeah, well, basically, I was going to just say that I was very fortunate. I'm going to end that with saying that I'm very fortunate to have been learning from Darius. Yes, because personally, yes, we are a couple. I'm his wife, but professionally speaking, he really has helped me a lot, and I'm going to basically get him to help me more, trust me, and on really fine-tuning and getting to know what is what. And now that ties in with your question of wine education. What I realize is quite a big dilemma for wine students or just wine lovers who want to pursue some further education in Hong Kong is that there are not a lot of options out there. once you reach a certain level.
You mean in Hong Kong?
Yes.
Yeah.
Say once you actually reach level
kind of
3
agree
or
with it,
maybe
yeah.
let's say 4-ish, or maybe you've already done your level 4. Fine, of course, there's always this ultimate challenge of going towards to Master of Wine, for example. But in between, there's not that many people out there who can actually still offer you more guidance, or maybe some form of courses or some form of like intense workshops to really like help you up your game.
Well, you just gotta find your own wine buddies and start
Yeah,
drinking
but at
in,
the same
in your
time,
group.
you need if you're looking for some guidelines, guidance, for example, because when you have your buddies, it's great. You know, they definitely help, and that camaraderie and all. But rarely would you see someone within the group who have that sort of some form of authority to really stand up there. You know, when there is like, okay, I disagree with you, Kev. I disagree with you, Kevin, and you're like, oh no, I don't agree with you too, Anty. And there's like, well, you don't really have that person can basically come in and just say, hey, actually this should be this, and that. At the end of the day, it's not about telling one person that this is right, this is wrong, but it's like, oh, what exactly should we, you know, get out of a certain discussion. And that's basically a wine education side of thing. I mean, we are now lacking this group of educators who can actually come in here, jump in to further the development of our wine drinkers or wine students, especially those who have already attained a certain stage.
Or would that be because we don't have reached that? We don't have a large population size. I mean, Hong Kong,
With 7 million, I think quite a lot of
not
people.
7 million, I mean, the wine drinking group. I mean, we still haven't reached the critical size.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think over the past decade, I mean, especially if you look at the fact that, you know, we'll just look at the number of level 4 graduates that we do have, but the thing is, what's next? What's after that? And you do have actually, you know, master classes hosted by certain wineries. Yes, we do actually still, you know, every year we do still have like Burhound, we still have Allyn Medal coming in and basically doing like a Burgundy course for us, but not so much coverage for the rest of the world. So that's something that I hopefully will ask Darius to work more on, to perhaps propel our wine drinking population towards, you know, the thing is, if you really want people to understand more about all wine from all of the world, we definitely need something that's more than just an introduction to it. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's when you don't have a solid foundation of a sommelier culture on just the hospitality side, and you don't have a solid foundation on the consumer side that's open to trying different beverages, just not just wines.
Now we're
beverages.
talking. That's the biggest problem in Hong Kong, I think.
So because Hong Kong is, from what I see so far, again, it's only been a couple of years for me, but I have seen that Hong Kong is relying on the history when it comes to wine of the British base. And so the British base says to the Hong Kong people that, oh, you're going to drink wine and you're going to drink fine wine, then it's only Bordeaux, it's Burgundy, and it's Champagne. And that's it. And so turning over that new leaf, you only get out what you put into it. So if there's not more effort put into being ambassadors on the sommelier side, to try to actively and proactively engage with people and to try to promote them tasting something different that they haven't had before, or giving them a little story about this wine or that place or whatever it might be, or this personality, whatever it might be, a little anecdotal information to start off, you don't start to grow and evolve it. So I think that the market in some ways is a little bit kind of in this kind of no man's land, where it's not really growing and evolving. For instance, in other markets of Asia, I can think of a couple other markets of Asia, they're actually surpassed Hong Kong in that sense because they're not kind of hung up by the idea that all great wine in the world is, you know, from these places in France. And just getting past that is one of the first steps. So you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So more effort needs to be put into that creating a team of ambassadors that were going to go out there and actually try to talk about enthusiastically, hey, this wine from Sicily, from Etna, let me tell you about it. Let me give you a little taste. Because more often than not, people will be agreeable depending on the way it's presented. That's salesmanship. Is the way that you
are
present.
Those people in the States, for example?
Well, it's just the salespeople in general. But I mean, it salespeople meaning sommeliers or meaning in the States it's more about sommeliers because it's a big dining culture in the States. And so when people go out and dine, that's what justifies being a sommelier. If you can't sell wine in a restaurant, then there's no need to have a sommelier. You teach your servers to know a little bit about your wines in a list. You have a more refined list, and you know you keep a liquid inventory, and you make your margins, etc.
And my impression is that in the U.S., because population is more diverse. You got people from different parts of the world, different countries, on the origin of origin, and then they would say, okay, my family's from Sicilia. I want to sell, wines from Sicilia. I would tell my clients, hey, this wine is good. They will be very enthusiastic to push these different wines.
There's more,
here in Hong Kong, because
it's more reserved here. It's more conservative and reserved. I think in Hong Kong, that's why I say just start with the Cantonese food. Everyone eats. And a lot of people eat local cuisine. So start with Cantonese food and beverages. And there's a few different beverages outside of even wine that work really well with Cantonese food. And so start with that. And then that way you can engage and start the process. But when it comes to wine, I think...
and we also have the problem that people associate wine as a status.
Exactly. That's a nice thing I was
that's
going to say.
Is it still so?
I
mean, you see a lot of just OLs also open a bottle of wine at dinner. I don't think wine does. I don't think wine
depends on the
still
demographic.
reflects certain status.
Depends on the demographic. I mean,
at a certain club, I know that's a big problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely there. I think there are actually like the younger crowd or the ladies. They will actually go say, oh, you know what? I just really like this wine style, and I'll actually go for it. But how do we get them to be even more involved and to go from, hey, I like this wine style, maybe I'll try something else too.
now, take the example of Cellar, Hip Cellar. Okay, your restaurant.
Right.
The people going there suppose already they know wine a little bit more than the average, right?
Yeah, at least they like wine enough to drink it.
And do you still predominantly serve still French wine in Hip Cellar?
Well, when it comes to, then again, this is what we do. When I started off this whole policy with free corkage, yes, we still have about 20% of our clients who don't come with a bottle. And that's actually kind of increased a little bit, especially after we get our Wine Spectator Award, which, does help a little, when people know that, there's at least this wine award-winning selection there. What I ask my staff do is don't present the wine list. And that helps a lot. That really helps bringing people out of their comfort zone and go for some other regions.
Okay.
We have the luxury to actually bring our guests into where we place all our wines. We call it the wine room. And by talking to people, basically. No list, nothing, no price tag. And then just pull out a couple of bottles and just tell them the story. That gets them to try, really funky options. For example, Eight in a Row is a big sell there, Liechtenstein, and and then even going all the way to Argentinian Pinot. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just baby steps. It's like if you got a chef special or something like that. Maybe you've got we got this special blind flight. There's 3 different wines, mystery wines, just little small sample tastes. We do it to go with the dish and so on. And then you reveal the wines afterward to make it more engaging, to make it more kind of fun and interactive. Because I don't see wine being as interactive in Hong Kong yet as it is where I come from. And so that's the first thing, to try to create an interaction and a dialogue about the wines. And I see that, like, a lot of times, even when it's students studying and they'll get together for tasting, and I'm not being pessimist here, but I'm just saying that a lot of times they'll drink too much wine in one setting, or taste too much wine and blind taste it more out of, okay, did I get that wine right? And I've often said forever, it's just like, guys, that's so polar opposite of where I come from, how I was trained, and what I teach. And it's not about, I would rather miss the wine and know why I missed the wine and go back to it. Hardly anyone will actually go back to the wine after the wine's been revealed and talk about it. It's like, oh, I knew it was that. Oh, yeah. And then I'll move on to the next wine. It's like, guys, you're missing the point. The opportunity is there right in front of you. Go back to the wine. Even if you got it, know fundamentally why. That's your learning opportunity. Why are you studying if you're not applying it with your tasting and ability to convey what's in the glass? Or to really go back and know why it is this and why it's not something else. Because otherwise, you know, that's where I try to separate the distinction between being really serious about study and learning through making mistakes and so on. And that learning is then applied in your profession or your sharing or whatever it might be. Because too often than not, it's like, oh, okay, let's get together. Everyone brings a bottle. So you got 8 people, you got 8 bottles. Some people bring 2 bottles. You end up getting another bottle.
We tried one time before, then we never did that again. We have almost 30 or 40 wines, and everybody's
drunk.
It's
and
a little bit
forget
like
what
wine
wines we had.
sometimes.
That's why, like, during the daytime, it's like, or it's in between, like, you know, the lunch period and the dinner service period. It's like, okay, in that little heart of time, you take that's a study session, you blind taste, you talk about it, and it's a good session where you're actually getting something out of that tasting. You know, you're studying, and you're maybe studying something more specific. You're having wines from there blind. You're tasting them, or maybe it's other things that are comparable from other parts of the world. That's how you get something out of it.
And that's the sections we need in Hong Kong.
It's not rocket science. It's just but it's really about having the discipline and the consistency and the persistency to keep doing it that way, so you start to really see the benefits of it. In my opinion. So I think the education. It's great to have education, but how do you apply it? If you're not applying it, then you're probably losing it.
You just point out the education problem in Hong Kong, our culture. We are just kind of like an exam machine. That's why Anty said, when you talk about...
Everyone's interested in
I think we have many friends talk about want to learn more about wine, and they will say, after we finish some class, we will have some certificate, some qualifications.
It's almost like an assurance sometimes.
That's the goal is often in Hong Kong about the certification, an accolade. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, I won't say who the person was, but years ago there was someone that got in touch with me, and it's like their email had like 40 different crazy, like, you know, marketing accolades and weird titles that I never heard of. It's almost like putting all these different medals on you. It's just like,
whatever.
Got the flowing robes, and I mean, it's like it's not, you know, it's just not about that at all. It's really about, you know, again, how do you convey it? How do you discuss it with people? How do you share it? So.
And for myself, how to learn with a direction sometimes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So until you stay in Hong Kong, for now. Your plan?
You probably are going to tell me I have to make sure that I do that, so that the much better half over here is going to stick around, right? Well,
any planning or?
I'm definitely going to be staying around. It's very different. I leave Hong Kong, and I'm actually glad that I left Hong Kong. I'm glad that I did. I come back as a better person, but still a lot of room to improve still, and. Now that I'm back here, there's definitely a lot more opportunities, and I'm keen to take things on and not to do something different for the sake of doing something different. I hope to do something different because it will make a difference, hopefully.
Okay. So Darius, you will stay more in Hong Kong also, or?
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so thank you for coming and thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Appreciate being have you here.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm honored. Thank you. Appreciate spending a little time with you guys. It's been a while since I've seen you both. So
hope
good
we
to connect again.
So hope we can see you next time, maybe in any events or Cellar or other wine events or here. Okay.
Look forward to it.
Yes, thanks very much. 咁我哋今集又圓滿完成啦，又睇下下次我哋可以有啲請啲咩嘉賓啦。
多謝 Anty，
係啊，多謝 Anty，多謝 Darius。OK，thank you，拜拜。
多謝。